Welcome to Dawsons. In recent months we've been selling works by the celebrated Sheffield artist Joe Scarborough, and we've been achieving some exceptional prices for these. As a result, Joe has contacted us direct and has appointed us to sell some of his early works that he still has in his collection. Earlier this week we were allowed to go up to Sheffield and interview Joe on his canal boat, and I hope you enjoy it. Joe, very nice to see you. Thank you for letting us come on to your boat, come studio, come home.
It is my pleasure.
Thank you. Let's go straight back to the very beginning. And I know you were a coal miner before you started painting, and you worked at Bachelor's Peas.
Yes, indeed.
As a chemist. And I wondered, did you actually do any painting at that time, before
well,
coal
school
mining?
was the initiator where we started. And I am a proud owner of an O-level in art. Not that it was thought that that sort of thing was going to do you any good. You know, how will you get a job with that sort of thing? And that's pretty much the idea I had. So to placate my father, I went straight into industry. But always had a little inkling to do that. And I've always been a good reader. And of course, all of a sudden you start getting plenty of books with pictures in them. And the old thing is, I could do better than that. I could do better than that. All right, smart Alec, get on and do one. So I started copying some of the, mainly, I must confess, sort of nautical stuff, ships and stuff like that. Because at one time of the day I was marooned for the 6 weeks holidays out at Hull. So I spent an enormous amount of time on the Humber, on the ferries. Right, soon found out a way of not paying, going up and down in front of the ticket. But I'd got this idea of being afloat. So I thought, when I really started to take painting seriously, that I would start doing maritime painting. I would be Sheffield's greatest maritime painter because, of course, we were 90 miles from the sea. And I thought, in my ignorance, that nobody would know anything about ships. First big mistake. We donate to the RNLI, et al., you know, and all this sort of business. So a lot of people say, I would never go to sea in a ship in that sea state. So I had to start studying maritime art. And the thing is, when you come across people like Norman Wilkinson and people like that, who of course were painting railway posters. So you want a good example, go down to your local station. So I found that art was nearer to me than I thought.
So did you have any formal training at all?
Not really. The best training you can get, to be honest with you, is copying other people. And then when this modernist art comes down, being very vocal in saying, well, that's a load of tripe and stuff like that. But what you're doing is forming your own opinions on things. And rather than paintings of ships were not selling, I have to be honest with you, they were not selling. And I thought, how can I make them more interesting? So I thought, well, why don't I put a few figures in them? I can't do faces. I cannot do faces at all. So the head on my figures are about the size of my thumbnail. And I got this idea that while all these faceless figures are running up and down, I do a good jacket and trousers. And with ladies, I do a good dress. And the thing about ladies is they wear hair. They don't just have it on top of their heads. I mean, we put a flat cap on. They have hair properly done. So the whole male and female thing is interesting. I mean, it really is interesting and stuff like that. So bit by bit by bit, the people in the thing took first stage to the buildings. Now, here's the problem. If you paint a street, one end of the street's going to be smaller than the other. I don't think so. So people in the bottom of my paintings are exactly the same size as the people in the top. And the only way you can do that is by getting rid of the horizon, upon which I think Western art has been based for ages, having a vanishing point. Absolutely. I was brought up on that at school. I did mention, by the way, that I got an O level in. It was the only accolade I've ever got. But the thing is, all of a sudden, you're looking at your streets, your village, as it were, which is Pittsmore in Sheffield, because I always regard myself as a village painter. You can get a lot more in. You know, the cast of characters is multiplied several times, and once you get lots of characters, you have lots of stories. Each one has a story. I mean, how many times have you walked past people? Maybe 30 people, 30 different stories, some of which will amaze you, some of which will appall you. That's not art, that's show business. So you take your lessons, instead of looking at art books, you go to the theatre and you see characters that move, and you get this idea of coming and going, and going, which is of course what Sheffield is all about. 3 working shifts, coming and going, days, afternoons and nights. After all, I used to do that when I was down the pit, which I thought was normal. That's how life. Then it isn't. It is a wonderful ballet set in streets. Now, once you've got that into your mind, well, you're set for ages. So I started really, really thinking about this as a commercial thing, because I'm not stupid, you know, and all like that. And I thought, what size would people like? And I found out that 20 by 24 fits any council house chimney breast. So I was going to be, an accolade I gave to myself, a painter for the people. How arrogant is that? You know, and it failed, of course, as those crazy ideas do. But what it...
Not in the end, though.
Well, perhaps not. But the idea of the coming and the going, and it was great. It's like an industrial ballet. And then you start attaching to a certain set of people certain uniforms.
Yes.
One of the ladies that appeared in my paintings quite a lot was Myra Sissons, who always wore a hair up grey, pink two-piece, white high heel shoes, like that.
The pink lady does always reoccur in your paintings.
She does indeed.
Yes.
And it's worked out on this fact that you could be walking in any street, let's say if it's Allen Street in Sheffield, you might see somebody 3 times in a week. Then they've gone for about 3 months. Some people said they've gone down the line for 3 months or whatever, but they're not there. So you tend to get, one of my characters will appear twice, and then not until the 5th painting. Oh, she's back again, where's she been? You know, that sort of thing. So you, despite the fact that there are no faces on them, because I can't do faces, it's as simple as that. You get to know them. Oh, she's back. Where's she been? And who's she with? So you tend to get somebody who has a specific uniform, you will see them arm in arm. Ah, something going off. So you are, in point of fact, an actor in my pictures, viewing what's going off and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I have heard you call yourself an entertainer rather than a
I
painter.
rather like that. I mean, I used to go to a place called the Attercliffe Palace, which was a flea pit. And the only, I mean, I'm talking about 16 years old, straight from school, because in the middle there was a nude like that with a water casket on here, draped in yards of tulle, and that's what we went for. the thing is, the stage, which was only about, if it was 6 foot deep, like that, with a backcloth, if you wanted to do any other activities, like a bit of juggling or something like that, you couldn't go up. But my paintings could.
Yes.
Because what was 5 inches in the bottom is 5 inches in the top. So that became specific. You know, I had to do that. Well, I didn't have to do it because people seemed to like it. And then you started bringing in the family. So you would see somebody arm in arm, and then there were 3 paintings later, there's a pram. And all this sort of thing.
Yes.
So it goes on and on and on. Indeed, as his life does.
Yes.
So you're recording a fictitious yet very factual life in the streets.
Mm.
And I loved it. And the thing is, I had difficulty finding out what colour to paint the floor. And I started off with asphalt and it didn't work. And I found that if you paint a light cream like that, you can also cast shadows like that. It's amazing what you can do with a bit of Naples yellow and
Yes.
some darker brown sort of stuff. And so bit by bit, I like this idea of colour. And I really got, if I be honest with you, when you're working down the pit, and I worked at Thorpe Hesley colliery, round about sort of 700 feet underground, when you're propelled up, and of course there's only one colour down there, and that's the light from your light, you bounce out into the middle of the Earl of Wentworth estate, and just for a shot, everything is brilliant. The cornfields, either yellow or green. The roof on the winding house, that's a beautiful purple. And the brickwork is gorgeous vermilion red. It lasts for 15 seconds. Your eye gets used to the fact it's a dirty pit yard on an October day. But just for those 15 magic seconds, the world is bright. Mm. And there are no windswept, dirty November days in my stuff. Everything is
True.
summer.
It's always sunny, and it's always very colourful as well,
Yes.
isn't it? And I notice you always use orange as your base colour on
Yes.
your pictures. Is there any particular reason why you do that?
There is, to a certain extent, in that I've tried painting white people, don't work. I've tried painting people from the Caribbean, doesn't work. Now, at the end of the war, because I was born in 38, it was grey, it was drab, and then all of a sudden, all the fruit and all the beautiful stuff started coming from abroad. Bananas, oranges in particular. Now, we have a place in Sheffield called, oh God, what's the name? It'll come to me in a bit. And it's all the fruit barrows are up there.
Okay.
And just for reference, the colour on Dixon Lane was wonderful. And of course, people started buying flowers. Mm-hmm. So, because people were growing flowers again.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, that street became wonderful of colour. So, I thought everybody would be like that.
Yeah.
And orange, I think it's a healthy colour. Yeah. Now, I know it's got a Donald Trump association, but nevertheless, I like that idea because we were brought up on orange juice because it was healthy, it was vitamin C. And the thing about orange is you can have a light and a dark. Mm-hmm. Because if there's no horizon, you have no idea where the sun is shining. So you don't know what's in shadow, but you do. Naples yellow at the front, alizarin crimson at the back, and you know where the sun is.
Yes.
Doesn't have to tell you,
yes,
because
yes.
you know where.
You just know from
and
the shadow.
you light up the dresses and jackets.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
So all of a sudden you have light effect without having the light.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, from a thinking point of view, work is getting cheaper from the perspective of actually doing it, it becomes easier. So I'm going to use an awful phrase like, you can knock them off a bit quicker because you have to do. Because I have a mantra which is 90% commerce, 9% art, 1% ego. And if you haven't got that 1%, it's going to be hard work. Yeah, it's going to be hard work.
You need that little bit extra, don't you, to be successful?
You do, and the thing is, of course, like it or lump it, the old idea of the artist starving in a garret, it's a right load of tripe. You know, most artists I know have families. You know, and you know, children are expensive. There's no question about it. So you have to have an idea on what sells. And slowly but surely you're becoming a small businessman.
Yes, yes. You talk about your friends in the art industry. You were represented down in Rona in London. Did you get to meet any of the artists down there while you were working there?
Yeah, I did, and they're all afflicted by the same problem. Because once a year, of course, I was in Rona Gallery down there. We'd all collect our best 3 works and take them to the summer exhibition. And all those 3 works would all come back with a green slip on them, a rejection slip. and I could understand the Impressionists having this salon de refusé, as it were. So you begin to think, you're not on your own, Joe, you know. And it becomes, rather than not me, it becomes we.
Yes.
And that really is comforting, because, of course, you've got to live in the real world, without doubt. And so you have to deal with things like banks. I have had the most hilarious combination of bank managers, and
you had some fun with your first exhibition with your bank manager, didn't you?
Oh, crumbs, yes. This lady bought a picture and gave me a cheque. A blue cheque for Barclays, and it was £15. So I immediately went across road to Barclays. This is now Costa Coffee. And this lovely woman said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yes, can I have that?" She said, "Have you a bank account with us?" "No." "You have to have a bank account with us first, young man." "Well, I'll have a bank account then." Put forms in as quick as possible. "Can I help you again?" "I'd like £15, please." "I'm sorry, I can't give you that." "Why?" "We don't know whether this lady has got £15 in her bank account." I said, "She's got one of the biggest wallpaper shops in Sheffield." She says, "But we don't know that, young man." Oh my stars, how does business go on? You know, I write you out what we call a counter cheque. Would that be all right? "Yes, that'll be fine." "How much would you like?" £15. "I can't give you the £15. We finished up at £7, 10 shillings. and that was my first entry into commerce, like that. And then I realised, come on, smart Alec, you better get your act together financially. Yeah. And my association with Barclays has been one of give and take.
Well, you had a patron, as it were, didn't you? Cyril Kaplan.
Yes,
really
indeed I did.
Off, didn't he?
Cyril came one day and he said, "I would like you to paint for me." And I went, "Oh, that's very nice. I will pay you £35 a week." Couldn't believe it. Went straight to Audrey and said, "Audrey, this fella wants to pay us £35 a week." "Oh, good, good." And says, "What shall we do?" He says, "We've got to Whitby for a week." and we started an association. And of course it was he who sent me down to a Rona gallery.
And what was his connection in Sheffield?
Oh, sorry, he had he sold jeans and stuff like that.
Okay.
Do you remember fairly modern, trainers and all this sort of business?
Yeah.
So the kids did very well out of him, actually. I can tell you that. Yeah. and stuff.
So,
So it was a happy association.
good, yeah, and he got you going, and
Indeed, he
then you were able to stand on your
And
own
of course,
2
he was
feet
a
after
great
that.
teacher as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he taught her. He introduced me to other artists. I mean, dead artists as well. You know, because he was a great lover of the Impressionists, and then I started to be taught about them. The use of the dabbing stroke.
Okay, yeah.
You know, high speed. Had to be high speed because the sky is changing.
Yes.
And so I was learning from him all the time. So I was adapting what Monet and all those other Impressionists did to Pittsmore in Sheffield.
Bringing it home.
Bringing it home, as if you like. And all of a sudden, slowly but surely, it seemed to work. And it seemed to work because people started buying them. And which really was a great thing for me, but it was a great thing for Audrey. She was a little bit worried that she was Canadian, by the way. She was a little bit worried that it's a bit of a dodgy business, this, which indeed it is. It much depends how you tackle it, but nevertheless, it's not swooning along in your comfortable chair, blowing bubbles to yourself. It is work, and I mean work early morning, lunch, late at night, if necessary, because you're privileged to be doing it, quite frankly.
And you've worked on some big canvases as well, haven't you? I mean, I can't imagine you've had a
the
9-metre long painting you've done.
Yeah, it was about 80 feet long, that one.
And did you paint it in here?
No, good Lord,
blimey.
no. Audrey was alive in those days, so we had a house. And a lad named Scott Barton got me the commission, because when the big Millennium Dome was on and all like that, cities would send stuff down to what they call a silver space, which they would display their lace from Nottingham. We usually sent cutlery.
Yes, of course.
But some wise Alec said, why don't we send one of them Joe Scarborough paintings? Of course, that set me on fire. We'll do a big one. No, we'll do a massive one. So the only people I knew who could produce a big camp were Mudfords, the tent people who made tents. And as I say, it was huge. I mean, that's my ego. Bit off far more than I could chew. Eventually, it took about 8 years to do, because I kept running out of money.
Right.
So we had every solicitor in Sheffield putting a bob or two towards it and stuff like that. when it was finished, the O2 shut. So I'm left with this thing, which, not to put too fine as it, weighed half a ton by that time. And the Graves Art Gallery said they would take it over, and it's now embedded in the wall, literally. It's part of the wall. And it did me a lot of good, in that my ego was satisfied. Forget if any people liked it, and they did, but your ego was satisfied.
I have to say, we walked around Sheffield before coming back to your home, and I did notice people were going, "There's Joe," and you were recognising people, you were chatting to people. You're obviously a bit of a famous person in Sheffield now.
Well, it's kind of you so to say. But the first thing you've got to sell is yourself.
Yeah.
And you do that by giving talks. And I have to be honest with you, the best people to talk to are women. Because I did all the sort of women's institutes and stuff like that. And they get ready to see you about 6 o'clock, to see you at 7:30. With men, it's entertain me, I dare you. And let me tell you, I have had buns thrown at me in Junior Chamber of Commerce and stuff like this. But it's all grist to the mill. And with women, you get fed. and there is by far an enjoyable etiquette. Not bad for 35 quid. That's what I used to charge.
No.
Yeah. And it was desperately waited for, I can tell you that.
I mean, I can see you're still working.
Yes.
And you're still at it in your 80s?
85.
No? 85. And some of your earlier paintings are now coming back to you.
They
I
are.
understand. So
Yes.
some of the owners are asking you to take them back, and now you're wondering...
They move on.
They move on
All
to...
paintings move on. I've often heard people say, Joe, I'll never sell this. It means a lot to me. And then if you want the guttering doing or something like that, for goodness sake, sell the painting. They move on, and they move on, and the people who have them, I know sometimes they'll be the third owner. Which leads you, very difficult to, there are certain series of paintings in your life you're very keen on. I did a series on Frederick Delius's work, Brick
Yes.
Fair, Walk to a Paradise Garden in particular, and those have disappeared. I did a series on the Palio. Rona actually sent me to Siena to do that horse race, and I did 3 paintings out of that, all 30 by 40. That was...
It's your perfect size, isn't it? 30 by 40.
It's a lovely size. You can get a lot in it, and it has a certain cachet, a certain grandeur, and you get a thrill out of that, because the very fact that it takes up the stretching of the arms seems to have a power about it.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Things have gone well since then.
It has.
I have no complaints.
And your works are now appearing at auction.
Yep.
And they're making very good money, and you've decided to put some of those in with Dawsons now.
That's
I
right.
take it.
Yes. It's like I say, this continuous turnover is fine. I mean, from £35 a go. that's not too bad. And but the journey has been enjoyable. It's. I've always said I'm 100 yards ahead of the bailiff, but it doesn't matter. The work has been turned out. The work is out there, and every so often you get that lovely glimpse of it coming back, and you say, "Oh, I remember that. I remember doing that." And the minute you say that, it brings back to the family times. Oh, I remember the money we got for that. We did so and so, and stuff like that. So yeah, they're a gathering of old friends.
Good.
They ought to be to the sound of Old Lang Syne or something like that. Yes.
Well, it's been an absolute joy meeting you, and we're so pleased that we're able to put some more of your paintings into the sales, and we're going to be doing this over a long period of time. So we're really looking forward to it, and thank you very much.
It has been my pleasure.
Thank you. Now is a great opportunity to obtain an original early work by Joe Scarborough, especially as prices do seem to be on the increase. If you want any more information or any help in purchasing one of these paintings, please do get in touch with us.